are thousands and thousands of satellites and space junk left over from space missions that are orbiting the Earth as we speak. That's got a lot of people saying, Houston, I think we've got a problem. Well, Dr. Jose Lopez, a physics professor at Seton Hall University, is here to tell us about the hazards of space junk. And thank you for being here, but I got to tell you, this interview's got me a little nervous. How much space junk is out there?
A lot. In the millions of little particles. Since October 4, 1957, when the Russians launched Sputnik up into space, we've been steadily putting satellites up there. There's about 12,000 active satellites. Most are telecommunication satellites, transmit shows and television like Ebru, but right now, because of different collisions and different things that happen, we have somewhere in the vicinity of hundreds of millions.
Okay, so, let's not get too panicked just yet. Are any of these things or space junk, is this going to come crashing down to the ground?
So some of them that are within about 50 to about 100 kilometers from the Earth, from the atmosphere of the Earth, do eventually come down. But when you go to about 2,000 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, those are stuck up there for centuries, for hundreds of years. And they're going to be orbiting and orbiting and orbiting, keep colliding and making more space junk from all the collisions that are happening up there.
Okay, so what is being done right now to get rid of this space junk, and do you have to get rid of it? I mean, can it just keep orbiting, or do you need to get rid of it?
It orbits there. Some orbits for decades, some orbits for hundreds of years, and it's going to stay there. So what we do right now is we're not really picking up the junk, we are monitoring it. There are radar, and actually space satellites that are actually monitoring different things. There's about 20,000 or so that are about 10 centimeters long, and those are very dangerous. So they can collide with satellites, destroy different things like the International Space Station. So those things are...
So there's no necessarily panic for the folks here on Earth, but there's more of a panic of what it could do to destroy some of the things up in space.
I mean, what happens if it gets within the Earth's atmosphere, as it's falling down towards the Earth, it starts to burn up. If they're very large pieces, they can hit certain things and cause damage, but those are very rare occurrences that happen.
Well, I remember quite a few years ago, I don't want to date myself, but there was a panic over Skylab, and I remember something like that. But do you think that there's ever the possibility of something like this, a big piece of junk falling to Earth? Is that a possibility?
Yes, that's why we're monitoring it closely, in case something very large, a very large satellite the size of like a Skylab or something like that falls. Most of the stuff will break up as it's coming into the Earth's atmosphere, so that's not the real major concern. The real major concern is we spent hundreds of millions of dollars putting up satellites there, and if there's little pieces of things, imagine things like the size of screws and marbles hitting these satellites and destroying a satellite where it's no longer functional after you spent millions of dollars putting it up there. That's a big problem.
Well, besides the millions of dollars, what else could this cause? I mean, in terms of the communications, in terms of the International Space Station?
We are completely dependent on satellites for telecommunications. I mean, television signals, communications, for pretty much everything these days. They are a mainstay in how we communicate with each other. So if we lose a telecommunications satellite, that's a big thing. I mean, imagine some of the global positioning satellites that give us GPS being out of sync and not working.
So do scientists have any kind of a plan on how to remove this? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of different debate on the best way to do this.
Well, it's been a combination. There are some plans to put up effectively robots that are up there, and I was
going to say like a shield or something like that.
So robots, like if you remember from Spaceballs, that are kind of vacuum cleaners and sucking stuff up. The better idea is to kind of put other machines that recycle certain parts of older satellites, like there's solar panels or different things, and use them on new satellites, so you don't bring up a piece of a satellite and then recycle another piece. So there's works on that. There's a lot of international agreement that something has to be done. So there's new policies that are now being put in effect. Before you can launch a satellite, there has to be an expiration date when that satellite will come down eventually.
So there's actually a team of international scientists that are actually watching this?
Yes, the U.S. Air Force, so the Department of Defense and NASA have stations in Hawaii, Alaska, and there's a new program that the Department of Defense is funding. It's called SpaceView, and they're working with amateur astronomers all over the world to steadily monitor the space junk that we have up there.
All right, so no need to panic.
No need to panic.
No need to panic. Okay, because I started reading this, I'm like, ooh, space junk falling to the earth. No. Well, thank you for sorting this all out and for educating us on this very important matter.
Thank you,
Again, Dr. Jose Lopez, always a friend here at Ebru Today.
Thanks.